Hey guys, Tim here, JK Boots. Today we want to do a short video just about how to lightly clean your boots or freshen them up. It's not when they're maybe super dirty or muddy, but you just kind of want to freshen them up, clean them up for church or going out or whatever. And we'll kind of show you how to do that, walk you through some quick tips and kind of just tools for that trade. So the kind of things you'll need here is, I recommend a hard bristle brush, so like a wire bristle brush. I'd recommend a bottle of oil and then a damp rag. So when you have a pair of boots that are like this, let's say that they're not extremely muddy and nasty and dirty, but they're just dusty, maybe you got some stuff in the bottom of the sole, and you just kind of want to freshen them up. I don't recommend doing a heavy deep cleaning in this kind of a scenario. Anytime you do a deep cleaning, I always do we'll do some saddle soap and water is involved. And generally with an all 100% leather boot, the less water and dampening that you can do, the better. So I would reserve the deep cleaning, hosing them down, really for a situation where it's actually necessary, where they're just like muddy and nasty and super gross, and it's been like 2 months since you last cleaned them. But in a situation like this, where you just got some dirt, some dust, some grime, it's pretty simple. You're gonna wanna take your rag and just get it pretty damp. That's totally fine. You don't really need to hose it down. Again, you can really do anything you'd like, but I'd recommend this way. Damp rag, hose, just get that rag pretty wet, and just start going over all these areas. Around the sole, you can even go around the rough out, no problem. Get in here, get all this dirt, dust, and grime. You wanna get that out of the boot, because when we go and we put the oil on, we don't want the dirt and the oil to mix. So that's the main reason for doing that. So you can get all of that stuff out. The brush plays a big role, especially for the rough out boots, because all of these, the fibers in the leather, the rough out is kind of like hair, almost, so to speak. And so all this stuff is kind of clinging in there and kind of maybe getting a little bit stuck in there. The rough out is awesome though, because it's more abrasion resistant, but the trade-off is it does kind of track up a little bit more dust than usual. So that's where the bristle brush comes into play. With your damp rag, wipe down all these areas and just start brushing this boot. Just start brushing and getting all this stuff out, all this dirt, all this dust, all this grime. Really, it's not like it's gonna scratch the smooth. You can use it there too. Ultimately, it's not gonna do any kind of cutting motion to the smooth part of the leather. But for sure, this will work really good for just getting all this nastiness that's gonna get stuck inside the rough out. Once you've done that, once you've kind of wiped it down with the damp rag, once you've brushed out all of this stuff, that's where the oil comes into play. Anytime you're doing cleaning and you're getting all this stuff off, it's a great excuse and reason to condition your boots with leather, to condition your boots with oil. When you've cleaned the boots and you've got all this stuff off and you've wiped them down, oil is just gonna come in and just act as this, just like this coating, this preservative. It's gonna just go over the boot, it's gonna soften up the leather, condition it, and actually it will literally help it over time also get, mud and water will slide off easier. It just won't be so, it'll crack less. Oftentimes when you've got mixtures of a lot of dust, a lot of dry conditions, the boots crack easier. And so when you clean it and you get all that dust and stuff off, you can't just leave the leather exposed. You gotta saturate it with oil. Another good alternative to the oil is also grease. I really recommend grease less often than the oil. And if you do the both, you can. I'd recommend the oil first and then the grease. But I recommend grease for conditions that are really wet, really muddy, really nasty. The grease works super well to act almost as a water resistant texture, and the water will slide off easier and the mud will slide off easier. So that's kind of where the grease comes into play. And so that's kind of a basic little step-by-step process. Again, the pieces that you're gonna need, you're gonna want a damp rag, a bristle brush, and then oil or grease preservative, and follow it in those steps. Damp rag, wipe down all the mud, the dirt, get that off. A bristle brush, a little bit more of a deep clean, get it out of the fibers of the rough out, and then oil, preservative, or grease to kind of go over the top, fill in the cracks, condition the leather. That's a basic light cleaning. I think that's something that you could do, almost like on a bi-monthly basis, maybe even once a week if you really want to. That, you can't really overdo that, I don't think, because oiling is good across the board. We talked about over oiling, don't oil your boots every day. I'd even recommend, it's like if you don't need it, don't even oil it once a week. But let's say you're in a hot summer, dry environment, no issue cleaning and conditioning and brushing and oiling your boots a couple times a month, 3 times a month is totally fine. So I don't think you can overdo anything there. The deep cleaning, which we'll cover in a later video, is a little bit more serious, where there's a little bit more water and saddle soap involved, and that's for those really nasty situations in which it's just like super dirty and you gotta really do a deep cleaning. But this is something that you can practice on a more consistent basis. So thanks for watching. Check out our other videos, and we'll see you on the next one.